M7060, a helping hand with your land.
Neil from Essex here today with one of Kubota's new M-Series tractors, the M4D. Gonna take a couple minutes today, walk around this machine and show you some of the upgrades that happened to Kubota's workhorse utility tractor. So with the introduction of the M4 series, this family of tractors has now gotten a lot more complicated. As if Kubota hasn't had enough models already, there's now many, many more. So previous to this, we really only had the M7060 in this size, and there's now 3 different tractors that you can choose from. The new M4D, a less deluxe M4, and this 7060 actually stays in production. This tractor is not going away and being wholly replaced by this new series. But there's a lot of things these tractors are going to have in common. So every one of them is going to share the same engine underneath the hood, sport exactly the same loader. So you're going to notice a lot of performance characteristics between these tractors being very, very similar to one another. A lot of what you're going to notice here as we go through these machines are going to be comfort, feature, function type things, and not necessarily the specification things when it comes to putting power to the ground and lifting loads and ultimately getting your chores done. So we're starting up here in the cab of the M7060. Now this is a tractor that's actually been in Kubota's product line for quite a long time. It was previously the M7060, which was essentially the same tractor just with a Tier 3 engine underneath the hood. When this thing rolled into Tier 4, there were very little changes actually made to the inside of it. The addition of a new transmission option, some small things, but not a radical redesign of the inside of the cab. And as time has gone by, it started to show its age a little bit. So there was a point where this is a very, very popular tractor for us. But to be perfectly honest, in the last couple of years, our sales have been swinging other directions to more plush interiors and more refined cabs. So it started to show its age a little bit. Now, by no means is this a not well-designed tractor, right? You can still see Kubota engineering in here. Your controls are still well laid out. I have literally just about everything that I would want to do on the tractor over on my right hand, including my loader stick, and gear shifters are right here and very conveniently located. I had things like electronic throttles and that kind of stuff, and engine RPM recalls. I've got all the doodads and all the features that we'd expect from a modern machine. It's just shown its age a little bit, and that's really in 2 areas. When I sit here and I look at interior cab volume, this is not a big cab. In fact, when you look at these 2 tractors sitting side by side, the M4D almost looks like a physically bigger machine now just because of the much larger cab sitting on top of the frame. This smaller cab does not have room for a buddy seat, which is something that we've really bumped into a lot now, because there is an expectation when you get into this size tractor that you want to be able to put your kids and stuff in here with you. I know I would. And so there's not enough cab interior volume in order to do that in this tractor, where the new machine is going to have that. So looking here around the inside, machine has been around a long time for us. We have a lot of them in the field, have done very, very well for us. But there's a lot of interior changes here that have improved in the new machine. So sitting up here in the M4D now, it's very obvious when you look around the inside of this tractor that this is a complete redesign of the cab. So the cab structure itself is a total departure from the other machine in the way the control layouts are done, and also just the sheer amount of glass, right? There's a lot of glass. This is a very wide cab, wide enough now to be able to fit a buddy seat inside of, right? So real easy. These can come through as standard equipment now on the deluxe model. Also standard equipment now is 2 rear remotes. So we were often adding additional remotes to the other M7060 tractors. These are going to come through with 2 now standard, along with halogen work lights as well. So complete lighting package, bigger cab, whole new control layout over on the side has really modernized the inside of this tractor. Another nice addition is the high-vis panel up here on the roof. Older machines did not have that. This one does now. And that's really important, because a lot of these Kubotas go into loader applications. You're typically going to find lift capacities and cycle times from these Kubota loaders kind of being on the upper edge of what the industry is able to offer in this size tractor. And that's something that you really need when we start to push these loaders up to high heights. You need to be able to have that sight line up to be able to see what you're doing. So you can see the right-hand control layout in the M4D is totally redesigned from the old tractor. All the controls now in the tractor are completely on the right-hand side. I don't have anything at all on my left-hand side, leaving my left hand available for driving and operating the shuttle. So if I work across the arc over here, I have my rear remotes up here, my 3-point hitch and draft controls, parking brake, range selector, gear shift, engine throttle, and loader stick. Two things to go into a little bit more detail here. The engine throttle on this is a simple electronic slider to run your engine throttle up and down. There are two stored positions up here that you could do saved engine RPM. So if you want to run this thing up and say set a position for where your 540 PTO speed would be, you push this thing to the right spot, press and hold this to save that position, and then every time you hit that, it will recall back to that engine RPM. There's some changes too on the gear shifter here. So this is a 6x2 transmission, giving it 12 speeds, which is preferred over say a 12 speed that might be a 4x3. The more gears you have in the main shifter, the less range changes you need to make. So this is a fairly short throw lever now, a little bit tighter than what the other one was by my feel. We'll do a driving demo here in a little bit. And another neat thing on this is that you've got a declutch button on the stick. So as you're driving along, rather than having to use the foot clutch, you can just push this button in every time you make a gear change in order to declutch the transmission. Now, I told you earlier that there's actually 3 tractors in this family, and obviously I'm standing beside 2. So there's the M7060 now being the most basic of all these machines, the M4 in the middle, and an M4D Deluxe at the top end. So if you're looking at say the M4D-071, not the Deluxe version, it's got a handful of changes from this tractor, and I don't have one here today. But the differences are going to be that M4 is going to come through with a less deluxe operator seat, an optional instructor seat, 1 rear remote instead of 2. It is going to lack the electronic 4-wheel drive engagement that the Deluxe tractor has. It's going to have halogen work lights instead of LEDs, and the economy PTO is going to be optional. Now that's a fairly significant list of differences. That tractor is going to come through at about $2,500 less money than what the Deluxe one does. Now, my personal opinion, I think we're going to see the sales of this mostly up in one of these 2 models, because that's what we have here today. $2,500 for that long list of features. I mean, the rear remote in and of itself is $800-900 in order to add on later. I think is going to drive a lot of guys up into this tractor. But you can have a bigger cab capsule and a slightly less deluxe tractor and save a little bit of money in that M4 series tractor. Price-wise, as we go through these 3 models, the M7060 is about $2,500 cheaper than that middle sitting M4, and the M4D is about $2,500 more expensive. So in net, about a $5,000 spread between the M7060 and the M4D, which is fairly significant. But as you can see, there's a long list of features and changes and bigger cab glass that kind of justify the money that they're asking. Many small tractors are sold in applications that will almost never see PTO work. But for bigger machines like that, that's virtually unheard of. Pretty much everybody is going to use the PTO on this size tractor. So 540E is something that's becoming a really desirable feature, again, that allows you to shift the gearing of your PTO to a point that you could run your engine at lower RPMs while still having your PTO spin at 540. In the case of the M4D here, this is a lever now that you can adjust from inside the cab. In the other models, the standard models, it's going to be an optional thing that you can add on later, but that lever is going to sit back here at the back of the machine. You can see there's this linkage here going up to the inside, allowing you to make that selection from inside the cab. So if you want to change between 540 and 540E on the fly, while it's hot, while you've got your implement, you don't need to leave the air conditioning in order to do it. But that is going to be a lever that you'll find back here on those other tractors, which is fairly typical of a lot of machines that do 540, 540E. Oftentimes you see that lever in the back, but this one has actually been moved up into the cab. The tire options for Kubota's M-Series tractors haven't always been fantastic. Let's say that. The earlier run of the M7060, our feeling always has been that the front tire options in particular were never as wide as what they should have been. That has changed here now recently, so there are some better tire options now for all of these tractors, including some wider ones that are just more fitting to a tractor of this size and with this loader capacity. So you'll see here now, these are LSW tires, low sidewall, that are going to give you some good, deep lugs, really stout tire, and really nice aggressive look to it. You'll notice here that this is the cast disc version of this tire. You can get your tires in 2 different ways. The cheaper ones usually don't have this built-in ballast in the back of them. We generally will order them this way for tractors with loaders because you need that offset ballast to the back of the machine. But this is a configurable option when you go through and make your tire selections on this tractor. Okay, we're gonna take a drive in the M4D-071 Deluxe. Let's see what this guy's like. First things first, a little disappointed in the deluxe tractor that we don't have a standard air ride seat. I suppose again we're going to find, like in the other tractors, that was an option. Would have been nice to see that as standard equipment. Running the loader, one of the specs on this tractor that's a little higher than some others in this class is hydraulic flow, actually. It seems like sometimes I feel like we're on the low side of where we want to be, but this is nearly 17 gallons a minute. And so you can see that my loader cycle time is really quick, despite being high capacity, right? Usually you've got a trade-off there, you get one or the other. This is meaningful capacity, but still fairly fast. The one neat thing that Kubota does on those loaders is there's a, you can move the loader cylinder into two different positions depending on whether you want height or power. And that's a really easy selection to make. You just pull a pin and move the cylinder. But moving that cylinder like literally 2.5 inches makes a difference of a foot of lift height or 10% of power. So you kind of have the choice on this tractor of how you want that set up. Noise-wise, I would say the cab probably could be a little bit quieter than what it is. It's not bad by any stretch, but I had just done this the other day in a New Holland, and honestly, that cab was a little bit quieter at wide open RPMs than this one seems to be. So I'm popping along here in low range. I say I like the control layouts up here. Oftentimes you'll find these range selectors being like way down on the floor, but having everything over here is really nice. Same deal with the parking brake. Some of the other tractors use a swing function here for the parking brake to lock that. Those can be a little problematic sometimes. Guys will miss the lock position, but this one is, you know, it's positive there, it's in your face, you can't miss it. The D-clutch button here, oh, that's nice. Yeah, I guess the one thing that you have when you use that D-clutch is that you're not apt to slip the clutch as much during regular driving, right? The tractor is going to manage that for you. And really, you could get good with that. I mean, coming around that corner back there, like rather than using the clutch down the floor, times that you would just want to coast, I can just hit the button on the stick and I coast, and now I let it right back out again and I'm back to clipping along. So driving that with the D-clutch, that's really smooth. Say I'm roading here basically now, high range, top gears, and I can just hit the button, pull the lever, let it out again, and with very little fanfare. Say that's a little different. We run through the same thing here and do it with a foot clutch. Sometimes I get mixed feelings about when they put buttons on the shifters like this. There's another tractor that uses a transmission called a swing shift that was not for me. This is a better seat. I would always kind of pick on Kubota a little bit for not spending as much on some of their cab interiors as what they should, and this one's better. I mean, the seat feels notably better. One additional feature now that has been on the M5 series tractors that comes down to this is this constant RPM button up here on the dash. So when you engage this, this is going to basically take your engine and tell your engine that your goal in operation is to maintain PTO RPM. So if you're going to run this, say turn your PTO on, take your engine RPMs up to where your 540 is, it will then use the engine ECU in order to try to maintain those PTO RPMs. So as you come up to a load, it's going to go and dial the engine basically up and down, electronically vary that fuel delivery in order to maintain PTO RPM. That's going to be a little bit different than you just normally using the foot throttle or the hand throttle in order to set it what you want, right? It's electronically maintaining that. I'm not sure why you would want that turned off, but that is a feature on this now that was on the M5 before. You've also got throttle presets up here, so when I go up to that 540, I've got a button right here that I can push that's right in front of the throttle. That's going to set what the A range is for my throttle preset. Now I can go back down, and when I want, say, to go to 540, I could just bump that button, and it'll take me right up to that speed and recall that PTO speed. Then to override that, you just take your throttle and pull it back down again, and it'll drop back down. This thing's fairly quick. I'm clipping along here at 25 miles an hour, which in a tractor like this is actually on the upper end. A lot of these will top out around 17 or 18 miles an hour, but you have to dive in and check and see if that is a function of the 6-speed transmission or if the 8-speed is able to go that quickly as well. My hunch would be that it's going to be limited to the 6-speed to be able to go that quick. So those are some of the differences between the M7060 and the new M4 series tractors. If you're going through the buying process for a piece of equipment and we can help, give us a call at Messick's. Also available for any parts or service needs you have. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at messicks.com. So we always thought we were a little bit on the my phone, right? Pretty easy. I like when tractors have features that I don't have to read the owner's manual for 20 minutes to figure out how to use them.